to change the mindset of Israelis about it, because the price that Israel is going to pay, both morally, domestically, and above all internationally, is going to be a very heavy price. A pariah state like South Africa.
Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show, everybody. Keaton and Kurt in for Jimmy this week. Israel announces major expansion of settlements in the occupied West Bank. The BBC.
Oh, finally
has the report. That's right. That's right. They're finally moving on.
Why would
in.
they hold them back?
Hold them back for so long. Party's over.
Pushy enough, I say to them.
That's right. Well, Grok. Here's what Grok has to say for some background about these West Bank settlements. Fourth Geneva Convention, Article 49, prohibits an occupying power from transferring its civilian population into occupied territory. The International Court of Justice, in its 2004 advisory opinion on the Israeli separation barrier, stated that the settlements violate this provision as they involve the transfer of Israeli civilians into the West Bank, considered occupied territory post-1967 Six-Day War. The ICJ's 2024 opinion reiterated this, declaring the settlements unlawful and calling for their cessation. You could tell Elon's out of the White House, because this is a surprisingly based take on this from Grok. I guess this is how you know he's packed his bags and left. Yes.
Grok dropped the Berg off its name.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yes. Grokstein, no more. UN resolutions. The UN Security Council in resolutions like 446 and 2334 has consistently declared the settlements illegal, citing violations of international humanitarian law and obstacles to peace. These resolutions are politically influential, but not legally binding in the same way as treaties. And, of course, the Rome Statute, the International Criminal Court, considers the transfer of civilians into occupied territory a potential war crime. In 2021, the ICC opened an investigation into alleged Israeli war crimes, including settlement activities, though this is contested, right, and ongoing.
You know,
so
even if you think they're far left commies in charge, like, here, let me be the, I don't know, the Tim Pool side of this. Let's say they're just far leftists and they
I knew you were bald. I knew it.
I thought about wearing a beanie as a toupee, but I would break out. Okay, so let's say that the ICC and all of them are wrong. You don't believe in those. They're anti-Semitic, probably. They're communist, whatever. But then they'll turn around the next day. I'm going to hear how Putin is wanted,
right,
or whoever. So there is no inherent logical coherent, like none of this ever makes sense if you can remember a thing more than a month ago.
Right. Exactly. Israeli ministers say 22 new Jewish settlements have been approved in the occupied West Bank, the biggest expansion in decades. Several already exist as outposts built without government authorization, but will now be made legal under Israeli law.
Finally.
Yeah. Well, this is why they were excited about Donald Trump, because, Trump lifted the sanctions on the settlers and made it easier for them to expand here in a quicker period of time. Unlike that pain in the ass Joe Biden, that Palestinian Joe Biden, as they called him, right? Ha ha. Yeah.
But which one, though? The taller one?
Yeah, right. The taller one. Exactly. Yeah.
That's
right. Others are completely new, according to Defense Minister Israel Katz and Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich. Settlements, which are widely seen as illegal under international law, though Israel disputes this, are one of the most contentious issues between Israel and the Palestinians. Yeah, of course.
I was just asking the other day, wait, why do you have settlers still?
Right.
Why is that even a word that goes around? Oh, there you go, something with the settlers. Like, why do you still have that?
Yeah. Oh, they call themselves settlers, and then they will say this is not a colonial project. But if it's not a colonial project, why do you literally call yourself settlers? They don't really dispute that term. I mean, I've never heard an Israeli say, "No, I'm not a settler." No, they are settlers.
My ex was Israeli. We were together a long time, and I didn't, until this conflict, I didn't realize how she slowly pushed me out of my room onto the couch.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, little by little, right?
It was little by little. A lot of peace treaties.
Right. Then she wouldn't let you eat out there either. She would control the food. She would move the fridge into the bedroom.
And I paid for all of it.
Yeah, and you paid for all of it. That's right. Katz said the move prevents the establishment of a Palestinian state that would endanger Israel, while the Palestinian presidency called it a dangerous escalation. The Israeli anti-settlement watchdog Peace Now called it the most extensive move of its kind in more than 30 years and warned that it would dramatically reshape the West Bank and entrench the occupation even further. Israel has built about 160 settlements housing some 700,000 Jews since it occupied the West Bank and East Jerusalem, land Palestinians want, along with Gaza, for their hoped-for future state in the 1967 Middle East War. An estimated 3.3 million Palestinians live alongside them. So there you could see a map of Palestinian areas, Israeli areas, and then the little house logos are the planned new settlements that Israel is looking to build. And if you look
Western-style democracy, no constitution,
Yep.
and kind of a South African. I can't remember the name of it, but there's one that I remember from Lethal Weapon too.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yes. So how do Israelis treat the Palestinians in the West Bank? Israeli settlers torch wheat fields near Nablus. This is just a snapshot here. That movie, No Other Land, great film, won the Oscar last year. That gives you a very, very up-close look at the day-to-day reality living in these Palestinian villages in the West Bank and the interactions with both the rank-and-file settlers and, of course, the IDF.
War is a tragedy. Keaton, it's sad. What are you gonna do? War.
That's right. That's right. Israeli settlers torch wheat fields near Nablus. Settlers from the illegal Shavai Shamron settlement and a nearby outpost set fire to about 10 acres of wheat fields in Sebastia this week in the illegally occupied West Bank, according to Wafa. The blaze destroyed an entire crop of 2 Palestinian farmers, roughly 7.5 football fields. Mayor Mohammed Azem says attacks are escalating to displace farmers and seize land. Officials report settlers also used sheep to graze on the Palestinian farmland, further destroying crops. Escalating settler violence, at least 938 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces or settlers in the West Bank since October 7th, according to the UN. The Palestine Information Center documented over 900 settler attacks this year. Between January 1st and May 24th, 900 separate incidents. Incidents include arson, assaults, home invasions, and property destruction, often under military protection. Rights groups warn these attacks are part of a broader effort to displace Palestinians with near total impunity. Back to the BBC.
You have Israel derangement syndrome.
That's right. Yeah.
That's a real thing that I thought meant what the settlers were doing, but no. It means what you're saying.
Right. It means saying it. That's what it means. Right. Exactly. On Thursday, Israel Katz and Bezalel Smotrich, an ultranationalist leader and settler who has control over planning in the West Bank, officially confirmed a decision that is believed to have been taken by the government 2 weeks ago. Katz said the decision was a strategic move that prevents the establishment of a Palestinian state that would endanger Israel and serves as a buffer against our enemies. This is a Zionist security and national response and a clear decision on the future of the country, he added. Smotrich called it a once-in-a-generation decision and declared, next step, sovereignty. That's right. Their goal is total annexation. Lior Amahai, director of Peace Now, said the Israeli government no longer pretends otherwise. The annexation of the occupied territories and expansion of settlements is its central goal. Alicia Ben Kiman, an Israeli journalist with the popular Ynet news site who covers the West Bank and settlements, told the BBC's NewsHour program that 70 to 80% of ministers wanted to declare the formal annexation of the West Bank. Yes, this is a very popular political project within Israel, of course. So here is one of very few dissenting Israelis named Gideon Levy, who warns in response to this that the price of this violence and conquest, both in Gaza and the West Bank, is going to be that Israel comes a pariah state akin to, as Kurt, you mentioned a few minutes ago, South Africa. So let's take a look.
On the other side of politics that wants to move them.
This is true, but we can only hope to change the mindset of Israelis about it, because the price that Israel is going to pay, both morally, domestically, and above all internationally, is going to be a very heavy price. A pariah state like South Africa, and we know from the example of South Africa that this cannot last forever.
You mentioned action. rhetoric, condemnation doesn't do anything. What does action look like to try and change the mind of those within the Israeli government who are following this course of action?
Look at South Africa and look what international pressure did to South Africa. Look at the reaction of the world toward the invasion of Russia to Ukraine. Within weeks, there were sanctions. Israel invaded Gaza 20 months ago, and the word sanction is almost criminal to be mentioned in the context of Israel. Do you think that that's a way to reach any kind of political goals? If the world wants to stop this war, and I think it's nothing more urgent than this, including obviously releasing the hostages, the world must intervene, not by condemnations, but by actions. And the world knows very well, especially the United States, but also the EU, they know very well how to bring an end to the war. But this must include measures, very unpleasant measures, sure.
Now, of course, the difference between Israel and South Africa is not that one was an apartheid state and the other isn't. Obviously, they are both apartheid states in the context.
Whoa. That's not fair, Keaton. First
Yeah.
of all, South Africa used their own money to do that. They didn't use our money.
Well, this is the thing. South Africa is not in the Middle East. South Africa was not our aircraft carrier, right?
Why
Now,
not? Because there's too many black people. That's racist.
that is the big difference there. And that is what, of course, makes this situation a lot different, where it's not as simple as this, because this conflict is framed as a clash of civilizations. Remember the movie Syriana? Remember in 2005 when they used to make movies that were about things, right? Back then?
With George Clooney in them.
Yeah, George Clooney, based movie starring George Clooney. There's the one guy who has that big monologue about corruption. And he says, corruption is why we win. Corruption is what keeps us safe and warm. That is what they want to tell everybody about Israel, that Israel is Western presence. It's not even so much about Jewish presence. It's about Western presence in the Eastern world. And if we're not there, because it's an oil and resource-rich part of the world, these scary people who hate us are going to get rich and expand economically and then expand militarily, and then they're going to take over the world. And Israel is the only thing that stands between the West and that. And that is the sticking point. That applies here in a way that it did not apply in South Africa, and that's the main difference.
Well, they just had the commie line for that one. But the West, what that means is the UK's interests, which is why Iran happened how it did.
Right.
If you look at the Balfour Declaration, and people make a big deal about what's his name, I don't remember which one, De Rothschild. It's that declaration. He has it, and if you read it though, Israel ain't supposed to be doing what they're doing right now in the Balfour Declaration, which some people would say was creepy. That's actually quite humane compared to how they act now.
Yeah,
it's shocking. UK farmed out colonialism to Israel because they were colonizing the Arabs. So that's what that's really all about. How that started was it's not even our aircraft carrier. This was for the UK originally, but then once we got brought back in after I guess World War I, I guess it's the West now.
Yeah. As I understand it, as I remember this, and I'm admittedly rusty on this history, so I don't think I'm getting this wrong. But basically, Ottoman Empire days, there were limits on land purchases by private landowners, and the Brits lifted that, and a lot of very wealthy Jews like the Rothschilds bought that land. And so this is about property. It's about a Western presence in that part of the world. That is the motivation for Zionism by Western powers. It's not love of Jews or even subservience to Jews. It's that, hey, they're sellers. They need a buyer. We need a presence in this part of the world to maintain this clash of civilizations narrative. And there are probably a lot of people who sincerely believe what the character in the movie said, which is, hey, if we're not there, they're going to organize against us and they're going to conquer the world and we're all going to be dead. There are probably people who are that paranoid to think that that's going to happen, and that so vicious as to think that all of this bloodshed is justified in order to prevent that.
Well, Keaton, do you want Iran to have a Samson option?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly. Well, yeah, we will see how that goes, how those negotiations go. That is another sort of part of this that we're going to have to wait and see. But within the borders of Palestine, the Greater Israel Project is, of course, alive and well.
Yeah, they gave South Africa nukes, by the way. Just fun fact about Israel, and then tepidly condemned them for apartheid to try to look better. But South Africa got nukes from Israel after they got. I think they stole them from France. Am I correct about that? They still have a guy in house arrest to this day.
Oh, really?
Because he revealed it.
Oh,
yeah, Jewish guy. They're not that good to Jews. I don't know who's telling people Israel's good to Jews, but that doesn't really jive with anything I've seen.
Hey, if you watch this show, you already know the media lies for the establishment nonstop. They lied about Russiagate, Ukraine, COVID, the lockdowns, all of it. That's why I keep partnering with Ground News. Their app and website make it super easy to compare media coverage from all over the world in one place. It's actually very handy. Like on Trump saying Zelensky is prolonging the war by refusing to cede Crimea to Russia. Well, if you go to Ground News/JD, you'll get instant access to nearly 600 articles covering it worldwide. Ground News will even tell you if each reporting source has a political bias, how reliable the reporting is, and if they're independently owned or corporate controlled. They'll even show you where news sources are based. It's a super helpful way to see how UK media says Trump's walking into the Kremlin trap. Kiev points out they're under missile attack, and antiwar.com says Zelensky is actually the one holding things up. 3 different versions of the same story, and exactly why you can't just take the first headline you see as fact, especially when Trump's involved. You know the media is going to twist it into whatever it fits their agenda, so I can't recommend enough following the Ukraine war and even politics on Ground News. Check your blind spots and find the stories missing from either side of the political spectrum. You won't get this kind of transparency from mainstream media. Ground News is a lot like this show, actually. They're doing what we're doing. So just go to ground.news/JD or just scan the QR code on the screen. We're offering my viewers 40% off the same plan I use, which gets you unlimited access to all their features. This knocks the price down to just $5 a month. Subscribing not only supports an independent news platform working to make the media more transparent, it also supports this show and everything we do here. Come see us live in Los Angeles, Buffalo, Toledo, Montreal, Ottawa, Glasgow, Manchester, Belfast, Dublin, London, Liverpool, Birmingham. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.